Yo, what's up, YouTube? This is Nate from Team Learning and Growing, back at it again. Today we have Noel Totomoch, who got first place in Swiss and then played top 8 and lost in top 8 for the Otakon Regional we had this past weekend. Playing, obviously, his tried and true Gogeta Xeno deck. Probably was like the only Gogeta Xeno player in the room and ended up getting top 8 with it. And not to mention first place in Swiss. And so obviously we're going to be going through a deck profile. But first, how was the tournament for you? Like what?
I want to say it was everything I wanted from a tournament. The only thing is, I really wanted to get first, right? But the experience was definitely unique because it was at a convention. Not really a big fan of like the whole line aspect that we had to do. I think PBG could have handled that slightly better, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, so we're going to be breaking down the deck profile. Obviously, the last time we had Noel do a deck profile of this GX list was when he won his invite to Nationals last year, and this was actually the tournament he got his invite to Nationals this year. Obviously, GX has gone through multiple nerfs, multiple nerfs to bring it to this point. And it's like a lot of people, some of our teammates included, were saying that this deck is dead, right?
Yeah.
This deck is like, and obviously yourself, you and I have talked that you were thinking about playing Baby, which is obviously the eventual winner of the tournament.
Yeah.
But how did you end back up on GX?
So right after the nerfs, I was like, yeah, PyCon is the only other unison you could probably use, because Mira no longer like allows you to fuse into more fusions, right? Like they clipped 7 fusions from the deck, right? So you no longer need the consistency to go into the fusions. Now you just depend on the actual high roll aspect of the deck, which is just swinging out with Fearless most of the time, pumping the 1-drops, making them 25Ks, 35Ks with the leader. So like, not a lot of decks can still handle that, but also not a lot of decks can handle the true fighting spirit still. So I think that's the card that should get banned at some point.
All right, so we're gonna head into the deck profile, and then obviously, as we did with the other deck profiles we've done for this tournament, we're gonna go into the deck, we're gonna go to the side, and then do a little overview of your matchups and how the deck performed and what you would change. Right?
Yeah. Alright, so the leader is Son Goku and Vegeta. On swing, you draw a card, and you may take a life, right? But the most important part is the activate main on this side, which is you can warp the top 5 cards of your deck, right? So that's going to be your second hand, and that's how you should always think about this deck when you're playing it, right? And then we flip over to the awakened side. Again, like most traditional leaders, becomes a 15k stat, and it has an activate main where you can take 1 life and give 2 1-drops 10k, up to 2 1-drops 10k. And that's very important when like you're gonna go for game and you swing. You just need that hand advantage, and most games come down to 5k. If the game's been played correctly by your opponent and like they outgrounded you, that's what it comes down to. So yeah, that's the leader. Token. All right, so the most important and one of the last few fusions we have.
The last standing, the last man standing.
Yeah. So Fearless Fusion, this comes in and warps a card for less, ignoring barrier. It's very important. A lot of cards like to hide behind barrier, and most good cards are barrier, right? So then you have to play Martial Melee. It is the fusion that you won't physically like pay energy for, and this comes off of the unison. So and then the one of thwarting, right? Like this is the card that Bandai just allowed us to keep, besides swing 25k, double strike, warp a card. It's good board removal, and it really like punishes like just any like early style deck that wants to like grind out. So those are the fusions. So let's get into the materials for the fusions. We have For the Goku section, we have the 4 True Fighting Spirits. This is now unique, right? So you could only have one physical copy.
On board.
On board, right. So I do think the correct thing was to just limit one but, you know, they decided to make it unique. Bandai does whatever they want. It is their card game. But this makes them warp a card for their counters, right? Any counter, they warp a card. It's once per turn, but that's what you need, you know, to like grind out the game, or just like end the game really quickly. He's a 1-drop, and it helps with the leader boosting, right? And this one as well. And this one's inherent double strike. When your opponent draws a card, non-leader gains 10k, right? So I'll explain in a bit why this was the ratio on the Gokus. You need Vegetas, True Fighting Spirit Vegeta. This definitely should have gotten the same treatment as Goku, or eventually get banned. And the Vegeta Super Combo, it's just an obvious inclusion. And it's important to have these in the deck because that's how you withstand martial melee, right? This requires you to take from your warp a Vegeta and a Goku that are 5k, right? So that's very important. If in case you didn't know, and that's why it's now like very standard. The other fusion like materials, the Beyond All Limits and the Fan Greeting. So it's important to always have an overwhelm. So some of the things a line of play that you'll do is like loop this if it's the last physical overwhelm you have in your hand, right? So it's important to do that. This is very good on kill turns. It's one less card that they have, and through Vegeta True Fighting Spirit and Goku True Fighting Spirit, you're just taxing their hand while like making it very uncomfortable.
So there's also the that crit Vegeta that warps, adding up to 4, which is obviously good for handling tokens and little weenies, but it does cost 1 mana. But it is obviously another Vegeta target, and this one's obviously free. But did you ever consider playing that copy, or?
Yeah, so my teammates Jose and Dolan were big on like well, okay, so Jose introduced me to the critical one, but my friend Dolan was also like that cost energy, and putting Chomp on it kind of is the same thing as this, but it came down to energy, because like you try to go for game on 3, and then like on 4 you should definitely just seal up the game. Even though this is like one of the more aggressive decks, you know, floodgates still exist, and you're at your strongest when you're at 4 or less, or generally 5, but 4 or less is when you're at your strongest because you have you know, answers to their floodgates. But yeah, the other one that come up, it just cost energy and it just wasn't mana efficient. But so now we move into the Unison package, and this is one of like the real reasons why I think this leader is still viable. It's one of the few leaders that gets a free Unison, right? So I also think this was probably like a better hit than like Marvelous Might or the Thwarting getting cut down to 1.
No, Thwarting was always going.
Yeah, I mean they both should get hit, but like this is something that should get hit, like, or just like, I don't know, cut this to 1. But as long as this exists and they keep printing Unisons, Gogeta will always just abuse it, right? Getting a free Unison's just free. So for the people that don't know what this does, if it's in your warp, it goes to the bottom of the deck, and from hand or warp, you get to play a Unison for free with 1 marker. So Pycon makes entrance, and then you uptick, and you give 10k to 1-drops. And that's very important because it feeds into the 1-drop strategy that the deck can do and rush down. The real reason, besides that, like that it's in here, is because you do the -3, which comes up so much, and I'll show you guys why in a bit. But you do -3, and then you go and you spit this out from the warp, and then it just starts like boxing them. Like this card is this is dumb. Like you go -3, this comes out, If this is in your warp bottom deck, it make another one, and then like your opponent constantly has to keep in mind that this is still out on the board. A tip that I recommend is once this is at 2, you know, like you'll use your token negates and swing out with stuff, get your draws in, and then tuck this under, and that's how you get the true value out of this, because then it swings and defuses, and then you just repeat again. So that's a pro tip right there. No Patreon needed right there, right? And yeah, this card was just like meant for Trunks, but you know, we had to take advantage of it. But now so we finally got these. So these were gonna get slid into the deck soon. But this card plays itself from the warp. Why would Bandai do any of that? If you have 8 or more cards in your warp, you tap 2 black energy, comes out. He's a dual attack, deflect, 20k stat, and fuels your overwhelm. And turn 2, I want to say not a lot of decks can handle like your leader swing, the previous thing that you casted, the Pycon swing, this swinging twice, and
your
then,
fusion piece.
Yeah, your fusion coming in, and then you just rinse and repeat, and then you overwhelm. So like, this is like the enabler, and like, this is why Gogeta is able to just exist still. 4 token negate. I think this card is really like really like dumb.
Black didn't need a token negate, and then they gave it to you, and
this card allows Pycon to like stick on board. It's also the flex spot when you're like gonna side. So like, I'll show you guys later in a bit. But yeah, this is the flex spot, like right here. And token negate, rip a life, 5 or less, and create a token, or it's 5k combo. Ridiculous. 2 super Kame just to answer the floodgates, right? 3 or less get smoked by the floodgate, and you push, right? Good card, and it's free. 2 Supreme Kai, it's better than Champa, because for that like 0.000001 chance that you choose not to give your card double strike, it can win you a match. So I'm willing to take that. You guys are wrong. I don't care. And Secret Rare Pan. It's a free cast. You swing leader, throw this on it. You declare double strike. Pro tip, and it's 50k. And that's the list more or less. So let's go into the side. Right after Nationals, after I got smoked by Sin Shenron, I decided to never let that matchup like ever box me. So this was a card I included just in case Sin Shenron did show up, but I didn't run into it. 3 of this card. Oh, so sorry. This ignores barrier and blows up the 30k if you have 3 or less, right? This card right here, it's so you can activate it for free if you have a unison, and if the card is 15k, it gets sent to the warp. It does not negate the attack, right? Tenacious, it's a Nimbus on a unit. It's 25k, gets an attack in. It's pretty good. It helps you do something with your energy, which is very important. So there's that. 2 Petrification, standard negate, but also if you pitch a card, any card, doesn't have to be a specific color, you prevent the card from activating any of its autos that go into pending, and the card has like no abilities, and that's really good. You can like stop blockers. There's very like super niche situations that this stops, and they definitely do come up.
So why don't you main that anymore? Because I know that, you know, obviously in your previous lists, like you used to main these. Why don't you main these anymore?
So the event was the best of 1 pre-side, and normally if you have good knowledge of what's in the field and you understand most decks, then you should be able to go in and side accordingly. So this would come up in the U7 matchup, where the Goku that rips your hand starts bugging out on you and kills you almost. So you stop that from like having to see, you know, you stop it from seeing your hand, right? Which is very important. This comes up against like Cell 9. Is it the Cell 9 drop? Well, the blocker unit that's like 20k keeps popping stuff underneath. You freeze it, and then it just doesn't block, and that's how you like go for your kill turn with this card. So yeah, I mean, it just goes in when like your token negate isn't good. This was my least like used card in the tournament. This was meant for GT. GT never came up, but the logic is that you negate, and then because it stops, like it pumps your leader 5k. They don't have a unison, so I mean their unison doesn't physically attack you, so it's one less card you don't have to worry, and their battle cards swing at you and you make them commit. It forces them to misplay, even though they don't think they are. And the last two cards are two more Super Kame. In case I ever run against Baby, which I didn't, I just want to max this out at 4, just so I can always go for the kill turn. And that's the side.
All right. So, how were your other matchups throughout the day?
So round 1, I actually got a no-show. I got a no-show for the round 1, so I was able to just like chill out and watch my friend get smoked because Darryl didn't prepare for the Trunks Gogeta match and the tech that they played, right? So then my round 2 is actually against Trunks Gogeta, and I did like an aggressive Super Kame turn while they were trying to generate the three drop Vegeta that they use, and then like that stopped his turn, and then came back to me, and then I swung with leader, top decked into Champa, and I'm like, this is probably the only opportunity I have to go for the game, so I swing, and I combo out, and that's kind of how I stole the match. A lot of the games just came down to that. I might have the rounds mixed up, but I know like it might have been round 3 where I ran into launch, and I comboed out of 2 40k swings at me, and then like on the crackback I just won. Round 4 was Gamma 1, Gamma 2, and that matchup is just have a true fighting spirit, go into thwarting, swing, tax their board and their hand, because whatever makes entrance gets warped from thwarting, and the true fighting spirit taxes them. And that's kind of just how the matchup goes. Even if it's not thwarting, you swing, you bait out the android, and then you fearless fusion it away, and then your turn's over, right? And then you just uptick your PyCon. That's kind of how like those 2 rounds went. And then I went against Cell. Yeah, I went up against Cell, Petrification, and I was able to go through with the game with Champa. Might have been round 7 or 8, but SS3 against my own teammate. I thought I was being like, spooky, trying to like pressure him, and he just like boxed me. He smoked my boots. And then I ran. Then round 8 was against Robin. He's a good friend of ours. The matchup was very slow, and it was just like back and forth. He clears my stuff, I cleared his stuff with Fearless, and I just out-resourced him, and I went for game. Round 9 was against Espo, another one of our teammates. He was playing Golden Frieza, and I realized that you can't just swing at them and just box them and think it's okay. You have to like slow down and hold their awaken, because on their awaken turn they go like the 1-drop unit pop. Oh, so like they'll cast the unison and then restand all 3 and like minus it, and then cast another one and then minus it again, and then they just box you, and that then you like Gogeta loses to that, right? Because you just can't box back. It's just bad. So I realized that like you have to just take it slower, and then on a good turn you just go for it, right? Like Super Kame is super important in that matchup, because you need to like swing through robotic riposte, and even if you do bump into a robotic riposte, you have to understand when you can push through it, otherwise it's just a waste. And round 10 was against U7, who I eventually lost to in top 8 and ended my run, but I beat him round 10, and there was like this very like, so I cast Pan, and he's at 4 life, and I swing, and then he goes. What's the card?
Imposing.
No. He goes after image, and I combo. I combo up to go double strike, and he combos out of it. But me going into that after image was me stopping the imposing. So I try to play around imposing, and I think that's an important thing. If you're the Gogeta player, you have to like play around imposing and then kill them, like bait out the imposing and then dump hand on something. So that's just like a little tip over there, and that's how you would approach like most matchups. You play around. You have to play around violent phrase. You have to play around imposing, and you just have to understand what their cards do and how they stop you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the deck profile. Obviously, we're going to be seeing you at Nats. This, this invite got you. This tournament got you your invite. First place in Swiss is crazy. How do you think this deck is going to move forward into Zenkai?
I think we need to see more reveals for Black, but the fact that you have like a deck that doesn't get affected by the warp is very interesting. Gogeta doesn't care about like most of the rules of the game. It just wants to do its own thing, and it's the most like Pokemon style of deck that you can probably play, where it just plays its own game and it doesn't really care about your opponent's turn. So I think even like most of the Zenkai mechanics probably won't boost much of the leader, but the leader is just still so good that it doesn't care about the new mechanics. Sorry, Bandai.
All right. So any shout outs before we sign off here?
Yeah, shout outs to my teammates. I wouldn't be half the player I am if it wasn't for you guys. You're a hater. It's really about it. Follow me on Twitter. Noel Ski.
All right, guys. Peace out.